Live. We're going live, Frank King. We're
Oh my
going
God.
live. We are live. Frank, what's up?
I'm in Miami, Florida, where there is no mask mandate. I'm rolling the dice, my friend.
I'm scared. I am scared. Do you
Actually,
like my little mic setup?
I like your mic setup.
I want to hold it actually. I'm s- I'm so well. I'm gonna get to see you in person next week. This is exciting.
Yes, American Association of Suicidology run the same panel discussion.
We can finally make out. That's amazing. No.
Yeah, I think I'm canceling.
How so? You're in Miami. How's it going?
Good. It's a showcase. It's a bunch of people who speak in the dental market on a variety of things like customer service, all sorts of technical issues, motivation, and there's a couple of flights of mental health speakers.
That's awesome. So you're auditioning for Dentist Got Talent. What's going on?
Dentistry's got talent. Everybody does 10 minutes. And I think if you win a bunch of cash and you get some bookings at big dental conventions around the country. And my chances of me winning are pretty slim. But I'm just here for so people can meet and greet and see me.
What do you mean they're slim? You're
Oh.
you're the mental health comedian. You're Frank King, man.
Yeah, Mike, it's that's what I thought last time I was here. I thought because I rocked it and I came in first among the live audience and second among the Facebook audience, Facebook Live. And I didn't even make the finals. I was just crushed.
It's rigged.
It
It's
is rigged.
rigged.
It is rigged. It's like any other contest, especially comedy contest. They already pretty much picked out who the finalists are.
You see my grill?
Yeah.
These are all fake.
Really?
Yep. I had implants. Woohoo! I had dental implants because I have no adult teeth in my mouth. There's a lot of missing adult teeth in my family, and I got the worst case.
Oh.
So all these are baby teeth.
Oh. And the uppers are implants.
Yep.
Man, your mouth has a street value. That's pretty expensive stuff.
Yeah, I know it does.
Did you just do what I think you just did?
What are you talking about, Frank King? So segue of the year. I'm so excited to have our guest here. I met her on a podcast I did for Bringing Intimacy Back.
Oh.
It was a great podcast. They talk about ways to bring intimacy back into life, into your romantic life, into your personal and professional life. And she was one of the co-hosts of that podcast. And she was amazing. She cracked me up. And I am so excited to have her on. And I love her last name. She is Dr. Kelly Bushéy. And every time I say Bushéy, I want to say, hi. So let's give a warm, funny shrink welcome to Dr. Kelly Bushéy. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, nice to see you, Mike, and Frank King, friend of Mike.
Yeah, friend of Mike.
I'm glad to be here today.
We're so glad to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I've looked forward to this since you asked me to go on the show because we also enjoyed you on the Bringing Intimacy Back show, and you are a funny shrink. How's your podcast going? You kicked off your institute the day that we had you on the show. What's happening there?
Well, we are doing. I have no buyers yet, but it's going to be an amazing program. I'm trying to develop a webinar and get all that going, and so it's going to be pretty exciting. I'm hoping.
I'm going to I'll put it on all my socials.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet.
Except my social security, of course.
So Frank King and I have been doing this podcast for about a year, I think, year and a half. We have about 20 so episodes in the bank, and it's fun. We interview stand-up comedians and mental health experts about how they use humor to deal with trauma.
Yeah.
And so when you guys had me on, I was like, this Dr. Bushéy is hilarious. I want to introduce her to my 5 followers.
Oh, listen. The best things are built small and then you grow. So you're on the launch pad, and I want to tell you, get your merch out there. Get your merch out there because you have a cool logo. And now look at the bling on the teeth there. You got to just keep smiling.
It's all fake, Kelly. All fake.
But you're not fake.
No, I'm very real. I've had implants. They're dental implants, so that's good. And
that's good to know.
I've also had Botox, but in my bad arm. So it made my arm look 10 years younger. I have something called left hemiparesis, and my left side is paralyzed. So my arm gets very tight, and about in 2006, 2007, I got Botox in my arm, and it was pretty cool, except it made my arm look 10 years younger.
I'm sure your wife liked that. Ooh, honey, what's your best body part?
Exactly. So, but it was actually really painful because they stuck the needle in the actual muscle, and so it was painful to get done. But it ended up being it relaxed the nerves enough so that I wasn't in pain, but in the long run, it wasn't worth it. So I did it for like 2 or 3 times, and then I was like, forget this.
I have Botox in my forehead. The lighting is horrible here. It's too bright, but right here, you can, if you look, there's like a dent. And when I went to my neurologist after a car accident, he asked me, he said, "What's the scar?" I'm like, "Doc, I'm going to punch you. That's not a scar. That's like a wrinkle." And I know I can park a Mini Cooper in there, but still.
Yeah. So what happened? Like, you were in a car accident?
Oh yeah. In 2014, I was what's that called? T-boned. I was T-boned by a Chevy Silverado. Ooh. And my car, it was a little Mazda 3. It was the first time I ever bought a new car. And literally within 3 months of having it, it was doing like spinning in the middle of the street. And I went out until when I woke up, the ambulance was there, the fire truck was there. My friend Aubrey, she said, "Kelly, everybody was beautiful. It was like you were surrounded by gorgeous angels." Everybody, the EMTs, the hot firemen, and and I'm like, and yourself included, of course, Aubrey. But anyway, but I was out from the time I was T-boned, that impact, until a fire truck was there and an EMT and everything. I was out. It took me a few years to recover. And I had frontal lobe damage, and that increased my impulsivity. And I'm impulsive, so can you even imagine what I was like in 2014 to 2017?
Good time.
Good time.
You were like the life of the party.
It's speaking of Miami. You're in Miami, Mike or Frank?
Yes, ma'am.
Frank.
So Tamiami Trail. I'm in Fort Myers, Florida. So right between Naples and Miami, you have Alligator Alley.
I flew into Fort Myers on the 3rd of March for my first live gig.
Whoa, I could have started stalking you then.
Yep. The speaker bureau called me up and said, "Listen, are you willing to fly into Florida in the middle of a pandemic to a state that has no mask mandate?" And I said to the speaker bureau guy, "I'm suicidal. What the hell do I care? Book me."
Book me, Dano.
And I did.
And so where was it, in Fort Myers?
No, actually, I flew into Fort Myers and went down to Marco Island.
Oh, Marco. What was your gig place? stands?
There's a hotel there.
Snook Inn?
Say again?
Snook Inn?
No, it was one of the big chains like Embassy Suites or Hilton,
Oh yeah, Marriott's down there.
Marriott. It was a good gig, everybody's socially distanced, wearing masks, and I survived, and I've got my first shot. Got my second one coming up next week. Yay!
Good. Hey, Frank, I'd like to, before we leave, I want to make sure I get information on how I can talk about not only the Funny Shrink Institute, but also your gigs too.
Okay.
We all have to stick together, you know?
And your TED Talk, right, Doctor?
Oh, I have a TED Talk, but I was told it wasn't academic enough.
What?
So I'll just let Brene Brown make all the money.
What
I am
what's
going
your
to
TED
continue
Talk on?
It's on, well, I call it Bubbles and Blueberries.
Perfect.
Because bubbles are, you can't, a lot of times when people start to have a panic attack, it's because they're not breathing appropriately. And they're trapping all their air in the rib cage. So even if people say, hey, when you can't breathe, put a bag over your mouth. And the reason is because you can't inhale without inhaling through your nose. Then you blow the bag up, but you have to breathe correctly. And when you're under stress, you can forget how to breathe.
Sure.
So they're just having you do that so your body naturally, physiologically will do that. So in order to blow bubbles, you have to inhale through your nose and exhale out your mouth. And then, so I help people with their breathing and help de-escalate panic attacks and talk about stress and anxiety and a real faith-based, hope-based, with humor approach to this. And then the blueberries are antioxidants, and antioxidants help combat stress.
There you go.
Well, so Dr. Judy, did you just apply for one TED Talk?
I just did it once, but I'm not real good at promoting myself. I'm not. That's probably why I'm still single.
Okay.
Same.
I mean, I've got clients. I've got 24 TEDx coaching clients. Three of them have just gotten TEDx, and we apply all over the country.
Wow. Won't that be something?
Well,
Yeah, I kind of like this. I like it when people just book me. If I just had somebody and just said, show up here, do this, then that would be great. But I'd be making triple the money. I'm just not motivated by money, but I am motivated by helping people. So if I can have a TED Talk that would help many people de-escalate a panic attack and also get a different perspective, I'm all game for that.
Well, Bubbles and Blueberries is a great title. So yeah, if you want to be coached to one, let me know. And I've got a speaker virtual assistant who does all the researches the conferences, sends an email, tracks down the meeting planner, and tries to strong arm them into hiring me.
Wow, it sounds fantastic. She sounds fantastic.
I'm laughing because when you said that, I hate promoting myself. I laugh because that's why my comedy career started to go downhill. I was like, if I gotta talk myself up, I'm just gonna.
I know. I just would rather just like be myself and then just vicariously be found like Patty Hansen was by Keith Richards. Somehow they met, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She's just walking down the street. Yeah.
You keep manifesting.
Yeah. So anyway, Mike, what I loved about when you were on the show was that you used humor with your child.
Uh-huh.
And you said the funniest person that you know is your wife. That's a beautiful thing because especially now with everything that's happening, you got to find people that make you laugh.
Oh my God. And could you imagine if the person you're married to was not someone you enjoyed being with in a pandemic?
I'm sure many people can. But yeah, we should probably have somebody, a divorce attorney, do a commercial for the middle of this. But yeah, it's sad. It's really sad that a lot of people are quarantined and isolated with people that they shouldn't have been with to begin with. And just this morning at our clubhouse during Bring Intimacy Back, we did one 7:30 to 8:30 this morning. And I gave my great advice. It's how to break up with somebody. You guys want to hear it?
Yeah.
I'm not single for nothing. But here's what you say. You say, well, you don't have to say this because you're married, but this works when you're dating somebody and you know, it's not going anywhere. I say, let's break up before we have a reason to.
Oh,
I think it's fabulous. I think that it is great advice. It's worked. You don't have to wait for more arguments, more reasons that you're not connecting, or if it's not working, it's not working. Why do people have to wait for a reason to break up? I know this is serious, but what do you think?
It sounds like you're jumping the shark, Kelly.
yeah. Well, no,
What's
Kelly's
that
right.
mean?
You know, it's my first wife and I should never gotten married. I wasted her time. She wasted mine. But you know what they say, you know, opposites attract. She was pregnant. I wasn't. But people say in a relationship, you know, devil you know versus devil you don't. I mean, it's uncomfortable. Maybe being single is more uncomfortable. And let me back up just a second, Dr. Judy. You were enjoying Mike's sense of humor with his child. But I got to tell you, social services took a dim view and they found out one of the ways he makes her laugh, Mike.
Oh my God, this was awful. Yeah.
Well, what?
So what years ago when my then girlfriend, now wife, and I were arguing, I wanted to make it stop. So I went in like I was gonna kiss her, and then I just licked her. And I went, and she was shocked. And then she looked at me and go, "Did you just lick me?" And we both started laughing.
Now this is your wife?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fast forward a couple of years when my daughter's actually my stepdaughter. So when we were all living together and it was new, and like I went in and we were arguing about something, and I did the same thing. I leaned in towards her arm and just went and licked her. And she was like, "Ew, that's gross." And then she started laughing. And so it came out somehow, and social services was and so I was pissed. Like, you actually think I'm a child molester because I licked a 7-year-old on the arm. It just, the world is,
playful anymore. You can't even tickle.
I know.
It is. You know what? I am so, it's men are being robbed of some of the playful intimacies with their children, sitting on their laps, different things like that. They're like, oh, especially if it's a little girl, and now even with boys, they're like, and it is, there's scripture, and I know, I just love this scripture. It says, "To the pure, all things are pure." And it's like, we live in a world where things get so perverted and so distorted, you can't even be playful with your child. And right. I think that's, I'm like a sandbar. I just have to tell you, Frank King, friend of Mike, I'm Dr. Kelly, not Dr. Judy. And
oh, yeah, sorry.
And that's okay. You can call me Judge Judy if you want.
I love it. I love it. I love that you called him out, because I've been thinking about how to say it.
I'm just waiting. But I mean, Judy's a cool name too. But as long as he calls me Bushéy and not Bushy, because my name is Rose Kelly and I don't want to be called Rose Bushy. So, but that's a joke. But so back to this thing where my train of thought went off the tracks. What was I talking about?
Brain injuries. Don't you love them?
The loss of intimacy. And I'll give you one, Dr. Kelly, about loss of intimacy. I was at another function with a young woman that I met at a dental function, and we became friends. And then I was we all had to describe our one big wish. If you wish for one thing, what would it be? And I said, I wish that my wife would retire from the grocery store where she works, come home and be my chief of staff, and then I would never be any farther from her than. And I reached out and I touched the young woman, Katrina's arm. And afterwards, I realized afterwards, and I went to her and I said, Katrina, I didn't ask if I could, if I could touch your arm. And that's what's happened, is that you're having to rethink or overthink you know, and it was her arm and her forearm.
I know. I almost just said me too just now. I agree with you.
Dr. Kelly, have you ever thought about doing stand-up comedy?
You know, when I like stand up when it's just in an organic public speaking situation.
Mhm.
But if I have to stand up in front of a bunch of drunk people in a room expecting me to be funny, or not that all the, you know, comedy centers, they don't pump them off through alcohol, but you get the point. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I love humor and I have used it for different parts of my career. But yeah, I just the thought of having to be funny makes me nervous.
Yeah, Frank too.
Yeah, me too. That's one of the, you know what, Dr. Kelly, that's one of the nice things about speaking and being funny is they're not expecting it.
Right.
And so it's not a comedy club, so the bar is a lot lower. So when you do come out with something funny, it gets a much bigger response because it's a surprise. And you know, it's not a comedy club; they're not expecting you to be that funny. So
Yeah, well, I know I get pleasantly surprised when I'm teaching in a class because I'm also a professor, and the students come and they think it's going to just be this boring psychology class, and then I start to treat them like guinea pigs, and I do research of using them. Not really, not like human research on ethical stuff, but I will employ them and get them involved in the research. And then I use humor and they're like, wow, you mean we're not going to spend the first hour reading the syllabus? I'm like, you learned how to read in the 5th grade or the 3rd grade, depending upon your intellect. And so, yeah,
so what kind of psychology do you teach, Dr. Kelly?
Applied psychology. So I do the research-based statistics, psychological statistics, which is test and measures, human growth and development, abnormal psychology, any of the core 10 core courses. But I want to talk a little bit about school. You know, I got in trouble a lot growing up because of my humor. And one specific thing that I did, I was in the 9th grade, and this is a true story, and I'm not embellishing one single thing about it. I bought some Phenamint gum. Are you familiar with Phenamint gum?
Is that a laxative gum?
Yeah, it's a laxative gum. It looks like a chiclet. It was green,
Yeah.
and so I
I
bought.
love where this story is going already.
I bought a box of chiclets and I bought a box of Phenamint gum. I ate the chiclets and then I put the Phenamint gum, those little square chiclet looking ones, in my chiclet box. And I went. First thing I did was I had to do a little pilot test and see if they worked because it said that it would give somebody diarrhea. And I was like, well, let me try it out on my twin brother. So I did, and it worked. And I was like, wow, I'm getting my $1.79's worth already. And the next day I went to school. And when you chew gum in high school, I was in the 9th grade, people always ask, hey, do you have gum? And so every single person asked me for the gum. I didn't go around and ask people, hey, do you want some gum? They asked me, hey, can I have some gum? And I gave them one out of the chiclet box. And they had so many cheerleaders and football players get sick that was a Friday, I know, because we were supposed to have a football game and they had to cancel it.
No.
Yeah, Mr. Mishley, the principal, told me for every person that got sick and went home that they would be suspended I would be suspended for school. I was suspended 11 days. My friend Michelle Brewski lost 5 pounds in 2 days and thanked me. Perhaps she's a bulimic to this day. I don't know, but it is a true story. And two of my close friends are like, hey, why didn't you give us, you know, my friend Dawn, why didn't you give me, you know, like she was offended I never gave her gum that I gave to everybody else that was popular or whatever. And I'm like, you were my best friends. What am I going to do?
So what you're saying, Dr. Kelly, is you've been experimenting on children since you were in 9th grade.
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Oh my God,
I've been doing little research projects and all of that. But I was actually just a hurting child. And I'm like a sandbar in Michigan. We go nice and shallow and then it goes deep. And I'm like that. You can never know when I'm going to be shallow and then go really deep. And I'm going to go deep and say that a lot of reason that I was acting out and attention seeking was because I did not have attention at home. We were, there's a thing called childhood emotional neglect. And that's what we had in our family. and we were neglected. So.
Well, I'm impressed that you decided to beta test your phenamic gum on your twin brother. You know, let's see, before I go into a full-blown study.
Yeah, he forgave me. I don't know. I have not been to a high school reunion since because I have been worried about the aftermath and
Oh my
the
goodness.
payback. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You
I have
should,
my drink really close to me.
you should do a segment of that on bringing intimacy back.
Oh yeah,
You
bringing
should talk
intimacy back.
about this. So I read your bio. You do a lot of really interesting things. You work with Native Americans.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us some about that. That sounds awesome.
Well, I was around 25 years old, and I was working as a program director at a conference center in upstate New York, and we would have different authors and speakers come in. Anybody from Billy Graham to Ron Hutchcraft. It was a faith-based conference. And I met Karen Hutchcraft. And Karen was the wife of the speaker for the week. And he was also, he wrote 10 Time Bombs for how to work with teenagers. He was just an amazing guy. He still is. But his wife found out, she said, you look a little Native American. And of course, I was just a tan. I tan. I mean, I'm telling you, I might look white now, but it's just this lighting. I just get so tan. She said, are you part Native American? I'm like, yes. And she said, we are starting a youth work with Native American youth. Would you consider being a part of it? And I went that first summer for that 1 week, and they had 30 people there. 30 people at this Native American youth camp. And the last time we had it, we didn't get to have it in 2020. But in 2019, there were over 750 Native American youth and leaders. And what we do is pardon?
Did you say Native American nude camp or youth camp?
No, youth. Nope, not nude camp. It's a youth. Two youths. Frank. The pure all things are pure, Frank. Well, I'm going to have to get him in session. Yeah, actually, they're 750 Native American youth, and it's just amazing. And then I even and every year for the last 26 years, I've never missed a year.
Oh,
wow.
Even when I apply for a job, I say, this is my non-negotiable. I have to go to this camp, and it's for 1 week. And even for the first 8 years, I traveled with them, and we would go to Native American Indian reservations or indigenous villages. We went to Alaska. I've been to the Native American Olympics 3 times, Calgary, Canada, Vancouver Island, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now you can imagine the Olympics with Native American Olympics. It was amazing. So yes, that's been
a bingo event.
Pardon? I missed it. What is it?
Have a bingo event? I'm kidding.
Oh no! Look at you. Look right at me. You're like, what? They are known for gambling. That is true. But let me just take that and elasticize this. So everybody thinks that the casinos are good for Native Americans. Do you know the mean age of death for Native Americans is 44? For men, wow. 44. And women, specifically on this one track, they're like in the 60s. But the mean age of death is for 44. Because without a vision, the people perish. So people have to find things that they're passionate about. And so that's why we try to reach them when they're young. You know, those youth.
So is gambling, are the, the Native American casinos, is it bad for the Native Americans?
Quite honestly, yes. Because, sorry, Mike. I don't know why that's not going off. All right. Well, that's lovely. No, I won't go out with you.
I like the music.
Yeah. No, casinos are not good. It's just like throughout Indian country, it's like the rich get richer, even among other places. And then, of course, there's they need to be connected to their culture again, because when their land was taken away from them. And that's what I actually got my PhD in. I got my PhD in counseling Native Americans and what it's like for them to receive counseling from a non-Native counselor. because that was my hypothesis. I thought that it would be bad because you have to sign all the intake papers. And the first thing I'm going to do is a white person coming to them and say, here, sign here. I promise you confidentiality. Oh, you want me to sign something and you're going to promise me something? No. So anyway, that's my passion. You get me talking about fishing and Native Americans, and I could talk for hours.
Yeah, so I can see why Native Americans wouldn't be, comforted by, oh, I signed a piece of paper and then.
Yeah. There's over 500 native sovereign nations, 567 the last I knew, sovereign, independent nations. And so they're different even among their own tribes. So it's very, very interesting. And
the only Cherokee left in North Carolina because of the Trail of Tears. Was that Trail of Tears?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Or the Cherokee who hid out when they made a march, to Oklahoma, wherever they sent them.
Yeah. In fact, when you say that if I stopped saying I was Native American because I got a nosebleed and I lost all my Indian blood. So, they would call me, there's an inside joke. It's called Cherokee Princess. So you say, hey, my great grandmother is a Native American, and they're like, oh, yes. And then they call them Cherokee princesses. And the reason that what you're saying is, hey, my great grandmother was raped on the Trail of Tears. Isn't that exciting? So it's really true because they were, there's just so much to it. But it is, the Native Americans have an amazing sense of humor. They love to laugh. So don't forget the Native Americans, maybe go to some casinos. You could do some gigs at a casino or do something for high schools or whatever, because they love to laugh, especially at a white man. But no, they love to laugh.
When did you stop identifying as Native American?
Probably about my third year in. Now, I am Mohawk, and I've been Hunka, which is adopted by the Oglala Lakota Sioux tribe in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. So I am considered to be a full-blood. But I just basically just go there. I work behind the scenes. I teach bead wars. I help do some cultural things. I teach them how to bead with porcupine quills.
Wow.
So I go around collecting dead porcupines in Michigan when I'm there. I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you.
We all got hobbies.
Well, and I got to tell you, Dr. Kelly, I was in North Dakota at, it's called the Medora Musical. It's been going on for decades. It's 7 day a week, all summer long, roping and singing and dancing. And they always have a variety entertainer for 2 weeks. And I'm there and I'm in Custer County. And I said, when was the last time you named something after the guy who lost? Shouldn't this be like Sitting Bull County? I'm just saying.
Oh yeah. Custer was killed by the tribe that adopted me.
Wow.
Yep. And another thing about Custer is he actually was called the GOAT. When in his graduating class, he graduated last. They called him the GOAT. The GOAT comes last. So yeah.
Man.
Yep. Yeah, Custer. Go ahead.
So how long have you been teaching for?
Since 1998.
Okay.
Yeah, so about 23 years. And I taught, first of all, at, now don't flinch, but it was called Baptist Bible College. Baptist Bible College. Baptist Bible College in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, outside of Scranton.
Oh, wow.
Yep. I went there to get my master's in counseling. They have an amazing counseling program. So I went there. And then they have since changed their name to Clark Summit University. But it's right outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania. And then I taught there, and then I picked up teaching again about 15 years ago here at Hodges University in Fort Myers, Florida. So yeah, and I love it. I do. I love it.
That's amazing. What I love about talking to you is it sounds like you really have been through a lot and have learned how to harness your own humor to help you get through the tough things.
Oh, it has. It really did help me through much of my life. I've had a lot of death in my life. Not my death, but my twin brother that I spoke of earlier, Tommy, he passed away when we were 16.
Oh,
Your twin?
wow.
Yeah, my twin. Yep. Tommy was the one I gave the phenomenal gum to.
I hope that
passed
had
away at
nothing to
16.
do with it.
No. But yeah, he was hit by a car when we were 16. And
Oh,
so early on, and my parents divorced when I was 14. And it was just, there was a lot of separation, separated from my twin when my parents divorced, separated from my twin when he passed away. And there's a lot of separation. And I think that's something else that we're experiencing here. Not necessarily, yes, some people are experiencing death. And everybody's going to grieve differently. I never really used humor, but I didn't give myself permission to cry either. I just didn't know what to do with that emotion. So humor is resilience. Some of the funniest people have been through pain.
right.
And I'm sure that you guys could share that. Frank, I'm sure you could share some of that pain too, but we have to just be willing to go there once in a while. You want to go there?
I share it every time I speak. I came close enough to suicide. I can tell you what the barrel of my gun tastes like.
Wow.
Spoiler alert, I didn't pull the trigger.
I'm glad you didn't. And I'm sure the people
Yeah,
that
me
love
too.
you. Yeah. How old were you when that, were you in your 20s, 30s, 40s?
No, it was last recession. It was April of 2010. We'd lost everything in bankruptcy, and I had $1 million life insurance policy, which would have restored my wife financially. So like a lot of people who are suicidal, I felt like the world would be better off without me. She would certainly be better off financially without me. Heartbroken, but not broke. So I came awfully close to having her collect that $1 million.
Wow.
That sounds like a book. Is
It
that a
will
TED
be.
Talk? Heartbroken, but not broke.
Yeah, no, I've done
That's what you thought.
I've done 5 TED Talks. I got a 6th one coming up in June on mental health.
I'm going to watch them.
So, Dr. Cal, I am really inappropriate with my humor when people die, I get so uncomfortable. I start making jokes. My grandmother, who was my favorite person in the world, passed away, and I was in college, so my aunt called me the night before and said, "You need to come home." And when I got home, like the next day, she died. And when she died, they left her in the bed, and she died at home. They left her in the bed, and they had everyone come to the house to say goodbye. And my cousin, who's second oldest after me, came upstairs, and I said to her, "Lori, before she died, Nanny told me I was her favorite." And we both started cracking up through our tears. And, and then my cousin got revenge because when my grandfather died about 15, 20 years later, I got to the hospital late, and she goes, "Mike, when he died, he told me I was the favorite."
You just had to wait 15 years.
Exactly. It was a slow burn. It was
Yeah.
a slow burn for that joke.
A lot of times people have a hard time knowing how to respond. And like earlier when you were talking about your Botox in your arm and this thing, I found myself smiling. And I was like, wait a minute, don't smile. He's talking about this, this pain in his arm. And you're just like, But when I found my grandfather, my step grandfather, but my grandfather passed away when I was 11 years old.
Mhm.
So when I walked in, we were fishing in northern Michigan, and we didn't have fishing poles. We were poor little kids. We didn't have inner tubes. We used milk jugs, and we just used basically find a piece of wood from the ground, a branch off of the tree, and we would climb in and we just beat the salmon to death. Like literally just beat them to death while they were trying to swim upstream and have babies.
I said I was hungry.
And then we'd take the branch and we'd stick it through their gills and walk home with it flapping on our back. And we were barely 3 foot tall. I'm 5 foot now. I can't even imagine what it looked like. And when we got there,
You were ruining the intimacy for the salmon is what you were doing.
Yeah, they had already procreated, I suppose, because they were going up to lay those eggs. I don't know how it works, actually.
Salmon swim upstream. I don't know why I remember this. They lay their eggs upstream, then they die, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Speaking of that, so I beat the salmon in the head and take it to my grandfather and walk in and had that feeling that, it's something not right. And Becky said, my sister said, hey, just touch his toe. And I did. And it was just stiff. And then I went and I told my stepfather, hey, Grandpa's no longer with us. And then whenever all the kids came home from school, I said, let's go raid his refrigerator. That's what I said. When they're all like crying.
He won't miss it.
Like, let's go raid the refrigerator. We finally get in. I don't know. But that was my first experience with death. And I just wanted to get in the fridge. Maybe I was just a little stress eater.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like that, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like I'm a little stress eater. But I just think that I also wasn't I didn't know how to talk about it. And so
death is really hard to talk about. I mean, when one of my mother's brothers passed away, I was so upset, but I couldn't let that show at the funeral at the wake on the first day. So my cousin Lori, the same one I told about my grandma, her friend was there, and she came up to me and said, okay, I'm gonna go. I go, you're leaving already? We were just about to tie him up Weekend at Bernie style and make him dance. And and she goes, Mike, you're terrible. And then the next day when we were there, all I could do was cry. But it's that initial uncomfortability with sadness that makes me want to laugh and tell jokes. And
well, let's talk about inappropriateness and death for a moment. There is something that I find so bizarre. Okay, so Kate Spade took her life with her own scarf.
Yes.
I find that so bizarre. And it just, every once in a while I think about it. I see all these Kate Spade purses and scarves, and it just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, and it just seems so bizarre.
It chokes me up.
I know. God. Oh,
well, Dr. Kelly.
Yes.
Her sister said after she passed that she had mental illness. She was treating with drugs and alcohol. It had been suggested that she get therapy. And she said to her sister, I can't get mental health therapy because it will damage my happy-go-lucky brand, after which she hanged herself with her own scarf, which I'm sure put a little dent in sales.
Yeah,
it's sad that she wasn't willing to, she was worried about her brand, so she didn't get help.
I would like, if I had a microphone big enough to reach the world, then I would like to have on suicide awareness days, I would like it to be like a red scarf. People wear a red scarf because people were so shocked by that, just like with Robin Williams. Here I'm with two funny guys. I'm with the funny shrink, Mike Cateo, Frank King, and
we all experience like comedians. I identify as a stand-up comedian mostly, and we're the most I'm gonna say this because it's my podcast, we're the most fucked up people I know. Like we get very sad and very depressed. Like I knew my wife since like 2004 2007. It wasn't until we started dating and then living with each other that she realized how much of an emotional roller coaster I was to live with. Like my highs would be high and my lows would be low, and she'd be like, what is wrong with you?
What did you tell her?
Just a touch of bipolar.
Just a touch.
Just a touch.
I've been asked if I was bipolar before, and because ADHD and bipolar they have similar some symptoms.
Yeah.
And PTSD and ADHD also have similar symptoms. And so maybe the root of this is some of our unresolved traumas.
I
Well,
believe
and-
it.
A friend of mine says that with ADHD, it's easier to give a kid a pill than it is to dig a little deeper because apparently childhood trauma can present as ADHD.
Mhm.
It does. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, we're deep.
We are deep.
We are such deep people.
I would love to have you come teach a course in my university.
Yeah.
I will say yes.
I would say awesome. So think about what you want to teach. Like, and Frank's gonna talk on suicide in June. Hopefully we have a large class for you to teach.
And
And
I'm not motivated by numbers. I never have been. I mean, even Jesus changed the world with 11.
How about
and
inches? Are you motivated by inches?
that is a horrible joke to a Christian woman who's talking about Jesus.
I'm sorry. It just popped into my head. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm not motivated by inches either. Just to answer your question.
The size doesn't matter, is what you're telling me.
The size
Well,
of
my
your
husband
organ.
died at birth, so I kind of gave up on that.
All right, guys, I'm bringing it back in.
Okay, reel it in.
So but yeah, definitely think about what you want to teach and we'll design it so that you can do it in early 2022. This is 2021 we're in, right? So yeah, early 2022. It was a pleasure to have you on the Funny Shrink podcast, Dr. Kelly.
Yeah, I like the balance between the authenticity today. Frank's just authenticity. I love that about you, Frank. And then just being able to just look at you, Mike, just makes me smile. And if you ever get out here, Frank, to Fort Myers area or Southwest Florida, let me know. And the same thing for you.
Thank
Mike?
you.
I'll put it out on all my socials and
Cool. Hopefully we will meet in person one day.
I believe it. I believe we will.
There you go. All right, everybody. We're signing off. Bye.
All right, take care.
Dr. Kelly.
Thanks for the honor.
Thank you. Stay on. Don't go anywhere.
All right.